101, and right at the beginning we left off that we said the certain malachas, the certain creative activities we're allowed to do in Yom Tov for the sake of cooking. For example, lighting a fire, kneading the bread, which we can't do on Shabbos. But there's this verse that comes and tells us we can do it on Yom Tov. We then said that once we're allowed to do it for cooking on Yom Tov, we're allowed to do it for any other Yom Tov need. So for an example, carrying. Since we're allowed to carry food, we could take our challah from in a public domain on Yom Tov, or our grape juice or food or whatever happens to be. So too, other things we need for Yom Tov, our siddur, a machzah, a luv, an esrog, a talis bag, the key to a house, whatever it is, we're allowed to do that. But we said anything that we're allowed to do on first day Yom Tov is only for first day Yom Tov. We can't do anything for Yom Tov for after Yom Tov. So yesterday we briefly mentioned, we got partway through the discussion, that we can only do something for a more holy level. So for an example, on Yom Tov, we can do preparations for Shabbos, because Shabbos is a holier day than Yom Tov. Now we do have to make an Erev Tavshilin, and we'll get there when we'll get up to there, God willing. But in brief, it's a rabbinic, I guess we'll just say it's more of a token ceremony type thing. In other words, technically, there's no problem. You can cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. But because we're worried that some people, they might be cooking today for Yom Tov, well, Shabbos is tomorrow, so they cook today on Yom Tov for Shabbos tomorrow. And then the next year, they might think, well, on Yom Tov last year, I was allowed to cook for after Yom Tov. They'll forget or not realize that it was because of Shabbos. So they might say, oh, so maybe that means I'm allowed to also cook for tomorrow, even though tomorrow is a weekday this year. They don't realize that it's because of a Shabbos. So because of that, we have a small ceremony that we do just to make people realize it's only for Shabbos. But in concept, we can cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. In theory, and I guess it can't happen, it's impossible, but in theory, you could cook on second day Yom Tov for first day Yom Tov, right? Of course, it doesn't happen that way because the first day always comes before the second, but because the first day is a higher level than the second day. But we cannot cook on Yom Tov. We can't cook on first day Yom Tov for second day, and we can't cook on any Yom Tov for a weekday. And again, so on the cooking, any of the malachas we're allowed to do. So that was Aleph. So up to base, number 2 in the chapter. Now, it's not only cooking. Oh, sorry, just one other thing, just to remind ourselves that we did say in Aleph number 1, what you could do, though, is if you could do something without doing extra work, meaning, first day Yom Tov, I need 6 pieces of chicken. Now, I'm not cooking them individually. I'm putting them all in a pot, and I'm putting the pot on the fire. So then I could put in 10 pieces, let's say, and have some for second day. It's not a problem, because I'm not doing anything extra. I'm just picking up pot, putting it on the fire, the same pot. If I'm cooking them individually, I'm like roasting each piece of chicken, then I can't do that, because each extra one is an extra act that I'm doing. Okay, so that was a summary of number 1. Number 2, afil davar she'eina malacha. Now, this doesn't only apply to something that's a malacha, but even something that's not a malacha. Good going, for example, lavi mayim, to bring water, or afilo yain, or the kiddush, or even wine for kiddush or lahavdalah. Also lahachin, I can't prepare it. So here we're not talking about carrying it in the street where there's no Erev and it's a public domain. We're even talking about there is an Erev. There's no problem. In other words, so there's no malacha at all. I've got my wine shed is it's in the back of my son's house, and I want to bring some to my house. So I can't do that on first day Yom Tov to make Kiddush second day Yom Tov. I have to wait till Yom Tov is finished. So similarly, where you find the biggest issue is setting the table, right? So probably the biggest challenge for this, and just to bear in mind, is usually second night Seder, right? So the other Yom Tov meals, let's say second night Sukkos, so big deal. It takes you 15 minutes to set the table. It takes 15 minutes. It's no problem. But Pesach, especially if it's daylight savings, everyone's in a hustle to start. And it's not just in the table. You got to get your 3 matzahs, and there's a lot more preparation to do. So it's very tempting. Right, that's right. Yeah, cut your onions, potato, whatever you use. So there's a lot more temptation to start setting up a little bit early, but we have to bear that in mind that we can't. You also can't put the candles in the candelabra. Lasakin ebsiloi, sort of fix the wicks. Vashashios, or the glass container, the things that you use beyond the rishon and tzarech halayla. So you can't do that on the first day. Now, even though on Yom Tov, since you're allowed to light a fire, within a minute of you can light a candelabra on Yom Tov, and if it's a little bit dark in the house, and you can fix wicks and you can do whatever you need to do. But if we're doing it for second day Yom Tov, then we're going to need to wait till first day Yom Tov actually finishes. So you'll see in many calendars or these magnets or cards that have the pamphlets that have the candle lighting times. So the first day it'll say 6:15 or something like that. Again, whatever time happens to be, and it'll say second night, not before 7:12, something like that. So David, you had a question?
Yeah. What about washing dishes?
So washing dishes, if you're doing it for second night, then you can't do that. If on first day, let's say at lunch, but in the afternoon you want to use the table because everyone wants to, you want to sit down, put down your sefer or something. You want to put down your book and learn and read or something like that. And you can't do that where you got your leftovers of lunch. So you need to put things away. You can start to sort of justify different things. But if someone's just going to wash the dishes so they're available second night, then that's problematic.
One more thing.
Yeah.
We have close friends, and the woman, the wife, her minhag was not necessarily based on religious reasons. She always washed the dishes after each course. Shabbos, Yom Tov, doesn't matter. Weekday, before she went from the fish course to the meat course, she would wash the dishes. So I'm just wondering if that would have been a problem in this kind of a situation.
And then reuse the dishes. She washed the fish and then the dishes from fish and then serve them.
Not necessarily. No, she just wanted to have the dishes. She didn't want to have dishes left over from one course to the next. So that in her mind, I didn't have that much of a job to do left over.
So if it's to just get the dishes done, again, that's going to be problematic. If someone's, sometimes people in little small apartments and there's limited space, they've got a small eating kitchen. My daughter first got married to this little small apartment as a child. Someone was in Koil, and the expression, not to say in America, I don't know if it's an English expression, it's an Australian expression. There wasn't room to swing a cat. There's so now they happen to not eat their Shabbos and Yom Tov.
It's not an American expression.
You don't say that in America. Okay.
No.
I guess an Australian expression. So there's not even room to swing a cat. So, and not that you should be swinging cats, by the way. It's not a very nice thing to do. But now they happen to eat out most the Shabbos and Yom Tov meals. But in concept, they would eat. There only was room for a little 2 people. So there wasn't really room to pile any dishes. You had to do something. So if someone legitimately needs to clear the space and different things is one thing, but otherwise it sounds to me it's just to not have a pile of. Again, I'm not criticizing anyone, and I can't read anyone's minds, but it would seem on the surface That's just not to have an abundance of dishes, which is, that's just one of those things. One of the joys of a Sunday, washing Shabbos dishes and the cholent pot. Yeah, it's one of the joys. Okay. Elim sarch l'shtamish behem koydem alayla. The Kabbos Beis Knesses. The only time they can light the candles beforehand is if you need it before dark. So let's say, for example, again, we're not talking about Yom Tov candles. Don't forget they didn't have electric lights, right? So they needed candles for light. So even before the second day Yom Tov technically starts at nightfall, towards the evening it can start getting dark in the house. So if you need these lights, you need to light some candles to make light for now, then you're allowed to, or for the honor of the shul. So it could be, technically, there's still enough sunlight outside, but the shul should be well lit. It should be a respectable place, and therefore you could also light the candles, even though the main benefit is going to end up being at nightfall, second night Yom Tov, but you're already lighting it beforehand. Just the shul should be a nice, bright place. It should be respectful and not a dingy little sort of cavern. Okay. Gimel number 3. All right. So we have like this. Goisha hebi beyontav rishon dagim or peiros. A non-Jew, they brought into town fish or produce of some sort, and sheyesh lachos shemen netzoda hayom or nisashul hayom. We're worried that they trapped these fish, they caught these fish, or they harvested this produce today on Yom Tov. Now they're allowed to do that for themselves. The question is, can we benefit? Now we don't know this for a fact. It's a suspicion. No, not normally, when the fishmonger brings in the crate of fish, he normally went out and caught it early that morning. So what's going on? Or perhaps, it's grain and it wasn't necessarily harvested today, but he brought it from outside the Tchum. If you recall from the earlier when we spoke about Shabbos, that we can only go 2,000 amos, that's about a kilometer, outside the city limits. And we can't go beyond there. We can't bring things from beyond there. Now, again, the non-Jew can do what he likes, but we can't benefit from it. So the Tchum applies in Yom Tov as well.
Well, it's a question now of picking up the mail when they deliver mail from the post office.
Correct. I mean, that's not so much an issue of Tchum though, because pretty much today, it's got to the, if you live in a big city, it's got to the sorting center in the city beforehand, and the whole city is within a.
Well, maybe we're okay.
Yeah, but if you lived in the country or something, something like that, or more rural area, right? So we got this concern. So asurim hayom betiltul. Now we can't move these things. We can't handle this produce or anything on this first day of Yom Tov. Now, the erev maturim, but the evening of the second night, as soon as it becomes second night, we're allowed to use them. They're permitted for use. Now, that's case number 1. Now, she'im hagoy mikiroi. Let's say this non-Jew, he knows you, right? He's the guy you buy fish from every Thursday. Just happens to be this Thursday is Yom Tov, and he knows you. But noislim loy beloy ketzitzos domim, and he'll
Rabbi,
give it to you. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, but Ezra has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ezra. Yes.
The question I have is with respect to Rosh Hashanah and the fact that it's considered to be Yom HaRichter.
Yeah, so this is still going to apply. When we say it's one long day, that's only to make things stricter, not to make it more lenient. So anything that was strict about, make something we can't do from first day Yom to second day Yom Tov, that's going to apply to Rosh Hashanah as well. Where it makes it difficult, or not difficult, where it becomes stricter, where the law applies, is there are sometimes things that we can do from one day to another that we can't do on Rosh Hashanah.
So that means, so you're saying basically that I can't prepare something on the first day of Rosh Hashanah for the second day.
Yes, correct. It's going to be the same thing. It's more, again, I don't want to say halacha makes issues, God forbid, it's not, but it's more that it doesn't help us in any way it just makes issues. So for example, Shechianu becomes a much bigger question on Rosh Hashanah than it does other days. There are certain leniencies in extreme circumstances. People are unwell, the burials, and the separation between those two, and different things from first day Yontif to the second day Yontif, and it's not as lenient second day Rosh Hashanah. There are still leniency second day Rosh Hashanah, but it's not the same as other second day Yontifs. So it's only to make things stricter that we look at it as one day, not to ever make anything more lenient. Yeah. So now we've got this person who's brought this produce or fish, and we'll just use an example. He's the fellow you buy a fish from. He knows you. You're a good customer. So he's willing to give you the fish without setting a price. Now, again, this case, it's only a suspicion. We are concerned. We believe he has caught it on Yontif. If he comes and tells you, look what I caught, it's something else. But so then mutar lekachtam ul achlam, you can take them and eat them on the first day Yontif. Right? Chutz meyontif shel Rosh Hashanah, except for Rosh Hashanah. Shefilim huva b'yom rishon asurim gam b'yom sheni. Then you can't even, if you bring something on Rosh Hashanah, you can't even use the second day of Rosh Hashanah. So this fish that it brings, I can take and I can use it on the second day, but Rosh Hashanah I can't. Only on a regular day. Okay. I'm sorry, just to clarify, the example I gave actually wasn't the best example. When they were caught or harvested on the Yontif, they're malachas, right? But if the concern was they were brought from outside the tchum, then you can bring them on you can use them a second day, even if they're brought for a Jew, and even on Rosh Hashanah. But you have to wait the time it would take. So just to clarify. So if it was brought for a probably making this more complicated by bringing in more situations, but just because it probably wouldn't happen today. We don't really have the people who bring the fish fresh, around the towns. So we'll leave it aside. Okay, number 4. Im havim hagoy b'shul Yisrael l'doiron or l'machem loy. The non-Jew brings something for a gift, brings it to a Jew for a gift or to sell it to him. So he's brought it from outside the tchum. So he's bringing something specially for you. So last time he brought it to town to sell. The previous one he brought it to town to sell. And it happens to be he knows you, he'll give it to you, but if he wasn't going to sell it to you, we'll sell it to Jimmy up the block. He's not bringing it necessarily for a Jew. But now we're talking about a situation where he's bringing it, he wants to sell it or bring as a gift to a Jew. Yesh also gam b'yontif sheni. Now we're going to say that there's going to be a problem even for him to take it and use the second day Rosh Hashanah, the second day Yontif. Because now that it's brought for a Jew, it becomes the malacha was done for a Jew, so we can't have benefit from that. Now, this is when it was an actual malacha, like trapping the fish, catching the fish, harvesting, these types of things. If he brought it from outside the tchum, then we can be more lenient. V'ach im chal yontav b'yom chamishi. If yontav was Thursday, b'yom shishi and Friday, v'aviyah b'yom chamishi, and he's bringing them on Thursday. Now, im yesh tzarich gadol, if there's a great need, mutar l'taltem b'yom hashishi, l'vashlam kavod Shabbos. You're allowed to handle these things on the second day yontav, Friday, in order and cook them even for Shabbos. The yontav shel Rosh Hashanah gamze asa, but on Rosh Hashanah, even this is you can't do, because as we said, the idea of Rosh Hashanah being like one long day is only to make things stricter, not more lenient. Okay. Hey, number 5. Now, before we say number 5, I just want to mention, and I do think we mentioned this briefly when we're learning about Shabbos, but it's worth mentioning again. When we're talking about whether you can milk or not milk an animal, there's different types of milking. Meaning, we're talking about milking in order to be able to have the milk, right? There is milking. So today it's a little bit different. I'll tell you about what they do in Israel today in a moment. But let's say in the past where people just sort of had their little house cow or house goat and various things. So if you don't milk it for a day, the animal's going to suffer greatly. Right? So you can milk, you must, because it's Sar Balachayim, cruelty to animals. There's a prohibition against being cruel to animals. So you have to milk the animal, but it goes to waste. Right? You milk it down a drain or something, and it goes to the to the garbage. Today, what they do in religious dairies and things in Israel, so in America, it's not so much an issue, because usually the large dairies, the large farms belong to other companies, and the Jews come and buy the milk. So they have a mashgiach there normally, to just so because of the Chol issues, but either that milk gets sold to someone else in the day, or it's the non-Jew's milk. He can milk his own cows, do what he likes with it. And when you buy from him afterwards, you don't need to know what milk was from what day necessarily. So, but in Israel, where it's a Jewish-owned farm and dairy and different things, so what they've developed is they have the milking machines are on a timer. And so what happens is the animals, and I don't know if you've spent much time on the dairy farms, but the animals get into a routine. Like they just come, if the milking's every day at 6 a.m., they're already lining up at 6 a.m. They all come and they line up and they go to their own pen that they normally go to. It's one of the ways how Hashem made them. And so they go there, and the person attaches the attachments to the animal, and then but he doesn't do anything. And then later on, the timer goes on. The timer does not start the milking. It turns on something else, which then turns on the milking. So it's a grammar of a grammar. It's like as an indirect of a indirect, and then they can use the milk. So what we're speaking about here is to be able to use the milk. We're not talking about even when you can't use the milk, you still have to milk the animal. So there's not Sar Balachayim, there's not the suffering of the animal. Just wanted to mention that. So number 5.
So there's no problem with connecting and unconnecting the animal from the machine.
The pieces they use, it doesn't involve any malacha. So you have to, now the animal's already in its pen, so you don't have a muksa problem of moving the animal. All you're doing is attaching something that is, that is
The process
which you'd be allowed to attach anyway, because you need to take the milk out of the animal so it doesn't be cruel to the animal. But because this process, you're not doing the milking, and what you do, it's only a cause of a cause of a cause that makes the milking. So then we're allowed to keep the milk. Okay. So goy b'yom rishon Yisrael Re'ayu. First day Yontif, a non-Jew milks the cow with the Jew watching, of course, so we can show that it's a kosher milk. Mutter b'yom sheni. You can use that milk on second day Yontif. V'im chalo b'Shabbos. But if he milked it on Shabbos, b'yom rishon hu Yontif, and Sunday is Yontif, also b'yom rishon, he can't use it because it never came into a state of permissiveness. You went straight from Shabbos to Yontif. Over Rosh Hashanah, im chal b'yom rishon shel Yontif, also gam b'yom sheni. And again, Rosh Hashanah, we got this come strict again. If it was milked on first day, you can't even use it on second day. The gam b'Shabbos is muchaloi, and you can't even use it on the Shabbos after. So if Rosh Hashanah was Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, even though it's milk for the first day Yontiv, you can't do anything. Now today, of course, Rosh Hashanah, we have refrigeration, so we can pick up our milk before Shabbos and Yontiv, and it's much easier. You know, you put it in the fridge, it's not so much an issue. But of course, pre-refrigeration, besides so like I said, these 3 days you milk the cow, so it doesn't suffer, but you can't keep the milk. That's the situation. Well, this is one more to go, but it looks like we run out of time. So we'll have to keep everyone in suspense for a whole week. So Hashem should bless us that the Mashiach should come. We won't need to fast tomorrow, but if God we need to, those who are fasting, it should be a easy fast, meaningful. That's most important. It should be meaning. We should take the meaning of the day and really apply it. And of course, if you're planning on getting up early, like before the fast starts, remember to say that before you go to sleep. You're going to eat before the fast begins. All right. So have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.
Yeshua. Thank you.
Good day, everybody. Good week.
Bye-bye.